You go switch to completed,
Uh-huh.
or upcoming or something like that. And I don't know, there was something in there where I had an old one and I deleted it.
Huh.
But yeah,
All good.
we should be live.
Okay, live to both?
Live on the internets. Yes.
All right. Welcome to Awesome Hardware. This is a live show that Paul and I do every single Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Right here, either on twitch.tv/awesomehardware, where the whole show is streamed all in this one place, or we also stream it onto YouTube. And when it's on YouTube, we actually break it up into two halves. The first half will be on one of our channels, the second half will be on the other, and then every week we switch the order of whose channel it gets posted on first. This week, just so happens to be the first half of the show was on Paul's channel. We just wrapped that up, so if you haven't seen that yet, or if you want to go watch that later, there's a link in my description if you're watching this on YouTube, or you can go to youtube.com/paulshardware and find it there.
90A.
90A, yes, correct.
Now it's 90B.
Now we're on 90B. See, we've got the whole system figured out. We've got the nomenclature down. That's a fun word, nomenclature.
We should do a C at some, like, just
to throw people off? Or,
yeah.
Or maybe it's time for a C.
It should be Lost or Missing C episode.
Ooh, that could be like the bonus, like the B-roll footage.
Yeah.
But it would be C-roll. My mind is blown. But, but so glad for you. So happy for you guys to join us. It's more of a variety show. We talk about tech, we talk about news. We have several different segments within each half of the show where we kind of go off on tangents on different topics. It's all good, fun stuff, and hopefully if you guys are catching us for the first time live, you will enjoy it. We like to also have some fun with a beer or two, or 3 or 4. Paula is currently, actually we're both drinking a hazelnut brown, which is from Rogue Brewing Company.
Hazelnut brown nectar.
Hazelnut brown nectar, correct.
This is one of
Can't forget the nectar.
my favorite brown ales.
It's a very good, tasty beer if you haven't had it yet.
And one of these is a present from my sister for a Christmas present. My sister got me beer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's always the best gift.
One of them was left
I'm
over
never
from
disappointed.
last week.
Nice.
It was a terrible pour. It doesn't matter.
Just quickly tell everyone that it's a Boddington's.
It's a Boddington's. It's got a build in the head. It's a build.
It'll be fine in 2 minutes.
Why have I lost my ability to pour beer? I used to be quite good at it.
You got too much head. I got no head. It's all right.
That happens. You can have some of my head.
Really?
Yeah.
You'll give me some head?
I'll give you head right now.
Dude, I would love some of your head.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, we should have made a sexual reference there. So, what a missed opportunity. Sorry. Ball's dying! Man, I'm down! Wifey!
That was all air. I was just trying to swallow air there.
That's what happens when you get too much head. It can happen. There is such a thing as too much head, believe it or not.
Excuse me. On that note, let's
plug our channels or our stores really quick.
Stores.
We're still selling stuff. I'm selling new mugs and new glasses. They just hit the store a week or two ago. You can go ahead and pick them up now. Sometimes I overclock myself. Get it? Because you're getting all wired on coffee. It's hilarious. And then also the glasses, they're tall boy, kind of retro style. If you want to keep it classy and you don't want to drink out of a tin can, you can class it up with some glass.
Drink out of a glass that looks like one.
Class it with some glass.
All right.
And then I've also got Paul's channel. Paul's store. I don't want to keep calling it. Well, there's a happy face. Doesn't look like the face. It looks like a face.
Does.
Oh my god, it looks like a face.
It's like that dude from Star Wars with the mouth open, like.
Like the C-3PO type of thing.
No, it's like an alien guy with just the mouth open.
It's so crazy. I want to take a picture of it, but it's too late. It's already disforming. But yeah, Paul's got all the stuff.
Buy stuff.
Beanies.
Good.
Shirts, polos, all that good stuff.
Just cutting that off.
Yep.
Like, all right.
Boom. Let's move on. And then finally, you guys can donate. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube gaming.youtube, whatever, you guys can donate. And if you guys put in a question or just a comment, we will read it. We'll be forced to read your shit because you've given us money.
Trick is, if you're watching a normal YouTube video, take the www, change it to gaming. So instead of www.youtube.com/whatever, gaming.youtube.com.
Takes you right
That's
there.
how you switch from the one mode to the other.
Yes.
Because normal one doesn't have the donate link.
True. So donations are by no means required, but they're always appreciated.
They're already pouring in. That's
They're
right.
already pouring in. So we will be getting around to them later in the show. So we have our buddy
Our
buddy
friend
Cell. who's moderating
He's
chat.
awesome.
He's gonna acquire all of those, collect them, and then he's gonna make sure that we read them off at the end of the show.
He's the best.
And also, Spider's moderating as well, I believe. So thank you guys both for being awesome. All right.
He's not as good as Cell. He's
He's
good. He's still good.
You know, we tolerate him.
Cell's just like a little bit.
Cell's superhuman. He's like a demigod. Spider's just like, you know, some kid in high school. He's all right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I don't like hate him. Like hate him.
This is, he's way better at video games than us, right?
He'd kick our ass in anything.
And now,
any day.
and now, if he didn't already have enough reason to kill us anytime he has the opportunity, you have given.
He said, "Wow, my poor heart."
Jeez.
We love you, Spider.
We love you. You're the best.
We're only giving you shit because we love you. All right.
For Cell.
Let's move on.
Right.
Let's move on to our first story. Continuing on with the news. Tech news. Now, a lot of people were triggered so hard the last time I talked about Ryzen benchmarks because the source wasn't legitimate, even though it was specifically stated that it was a rumor. People were like, "How could you report this as news?" It's like, well, if it's rumor news, if it's reported as a rumor, then I'm not really seeing the huge point, the huge complaint here. But this is another rumor, so just to trigger you guys who were affected the first time even more, these ones seem a little bit more reliable. This is from WCCF Tech, whereas it wasn't quite as credible of a source when I last reported on it. But this was published more recently. This was after the last episode. Published online on a French PC hardware website. There's a link in there somewhere that will take you to it. They've been a well-known, reputable website since about 2001 is when they formed, so it's not just some random one-off sketchy website. This place actually has some kind of reputation.
Although this image is sketchy. It's just very JPEG artifacty.
Well, it's the
really
it's the French.
Yeah.
They're still trying to catch up to the rest of the world. So basically, the ID code on the CPU that was tested was listed as AMD plus a string of like 10, 12 characters, 2D3151A. There was no marketing chip name on the actual chip, so leads us to believe that it's probably an engineering sample. Also, the base clock was reported to be 3.15 gigahertz. 3.15 gigahertz. And Lisa Su claimed that the retail version of the Ryzen chip would be 3.4 gigahertz at least.
Yes, she did.
So
I know that because I was physically in the room with her when she said it.
Did you feel her force, her energy?
That makes me happy that I can say that.
That's nice.
She's
epic moment. She seems like a nice woman.
She's very nice. Her presentation, I don't know. Sometimes I wish she'd just go up there and like list off facts because I don't know. Did you watch the Ryzen live stream or whatever?
No.
I don't know. Some of like the cajoling like that they tried to do in there is just like it's a little forced there perhaps.
Cajoling, that is synonymous with like schmoozing type of thing.
Like joking around or like trying to like, oh, we're having fun here.
All right.
You know.
Yep.
You know, like we're so good at pretending to do.
Yeah. Start bawling.
Stop it! Okay.
To the cellar with you! Yes, I know what you mean. I've been to plenty of other press conferences that kind of go that route. But she does know her shit. She did have a lot of interesting things to say, including the base clock would be 3.4, not 3.15 like this guy's testing here, which, again, probably an engineering sample. That is occasionally the case with those. They're slightly clocked differently. The Turbo all-core was 3.3 gigahertz. Turbo one-core, or single-core, was 3.5 gigahertz. And they basically tested this with a slew of rendering benchmarks, including Encodage HB, W Prime, POV Ray, Blender 3D, 3ds Max 2015, the Corona benchmark, which I thought was interesting.
Corona.
Was wondering if they would have to like render an image of like a shitty beer, or like if there's any. I don't know. I'm trying to make a joke.
I feel like the Corona benchmark would leave a bad taste in your mouth.
Ooh, solid pun, Paul. Solid pun. 10 out of 10.
Been saving that one.
Would pun again. So basically, when it came to the rendering benchmarks, that's kind of like where the Ryzen chip seems to shine, because they are taking advantage of multiple threads, and having 6 cores itself on the Ryzen chip can help a huge deal with that sort of thing. So it actually shows it beating out the Core i7 6800K, which is a $434-ish CPU. Again, we don't know what the pricing of this Ryzen chip's going to be, but if it's anything like the traditional AMD philosophy and pricing scheme, it's going to be very competitive with Intel offerings. So it's going to be competing on the multi-threaded front with the 6800K, just to reiterate, although it's lagging severely behind the 6900K, which you might be like, oh, well, that's a bummer, but the 6900K is a $1,000 plus chip. So if your hope was that Ryzen would be something that's remotely affordable, you don't want it to be $1,000 anyway. So you should be okay with it not competing directly with a $1,000 Intel chip. The fact that the article goes on to say that you could potentially overclock Ryzen and get within 5 to 10% the performance in multi-threaded applications, mind you, of the 6800K for potentially 2 or 3 times cheaper is something to get excited about, I think. And it's kind of an offering on the AMD front that Intel really hasn't even been remotely challenged with lately. They also did some gaming benchmarks, and with games, it does utilize multiple cores and things like that, but it doesn't really utilize threads as much as like a rendering program or application would. It's just not the same. I think they were saying in the article, like, well, actually, when you are playing a game, the second thread, like the first thread is like fully utilized, the second thread is significantly less utilized, and then every subsequent thread after that is exponentially used less and less. So when it comes to that, it's pretty much frequency that takes over. Frequency is going to be the winning aspect here, as opposed to multiple cores. And that's kind of the point that they were driving home. And due to that, when tested in games, the Ryzen chip was actually scoring in between the Core i5 6500 and the 6600, which is not phenomenal, but it's obviously much better than like the FX 8370 was, which they also compare here, which was 60% slower. In the multi-threaded applications, 8370, the FX 8370 was 60% slower, and it was something like 30 to 40% slower in games. So that's still a huge bump up. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the findings. Again, I cannot confirm or deny whether or how legitimate these results are, but if they are true, it means that we are going to see a hell of a lot of competition for Intel come early 2017 with this Ryzen chip, because, I mean, shit, if it can compete with a 6800K or even a 6900K for $300-400, I could see a lot of people switching over to the AMD platform, just because even if you can still get a good value with an Intel chip at that caliber, I think people are just looking for change, to be honest. Like for the last, like, I don't know, apart from the AMD build that I did like a month or two ago, every build that I've done's been like, you know, a high-end NVIDIA card with like an Intel Core i5 or Core i7. I haven't really, unless it's a budget build that I'm talking about, I have not used an AMD chip. So I think people are aching for something new, something fresh. A lot of people are in the market for a new PC, and they might want to try out AMD for the platform and stuff. So we'll see. We'll see come CES if that.
So the reasons
happens.
I have to doubt this article, or at least doubt the veracity of their results long term, mainly has to do with the clock speeds that they're reporting, because, as Kyle already said, Lisa Su has confirmed that they're plotting a 3.4 gigahertz base clock for the Ryzen processor, and they said that will start at that. So they seem to indicate that there might be, like, whatever the lowest end Ryzen chip will start with 8 cores, 16 threads, 3.4 gigahertz base, and a boost that is still unknown. So the fact that this one's starting at 3.15, boosting to 3.5 on one thread, boosting to 3.2 or 3.4?
What, the Ryzen chip?
this chip in their test right now. The boot.
I could not
scroll
find...
up a little bit. It said it in the article. You had it.
Where?
The turbo on the turbo on one core
was 3.5.
Was 3.5. The turbo on all cores was 3.3.
Yeah.
That tells me that they're probably using outdated microarchitecture, if not an outdated or an earlier sample or version of the CPU.
Because it can probably go way past that.
According to rumors, there are already vendors that have Ryzen samples in hand. They have to send them out to like motherboard manufacturers and that kind of thing at some points so that they can actually start building the motherboards around them.
Right.
And there are different versions that go out. Sometimes you have engineering samples that go out that are all the same. Sometimes you have ones that go out that are different, that are iterative. As time goes on. So I could see this being either an actual early chip that maybe doesn't have everything turned on, or potentially just using older microcode that's in there that might change, or that might change or be updated from AMD.
Right.
So all that is to say, this is a rumor article. So there's reasons to doubt all kinds of stuff like this. But even with that in mind, if there is theoretically more potential for the CPU beyond what's shown here, then that's good news too.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
And then one last thing I wanted to point out was that in the test, for what it's worth, was saying that the power draw under load for the Ryzen chip was 93 watts, which did beat out the 6900K, which was drawing 96 watts. So by 3 watts, not a huge margin or anything, but still more power efficient than a chip that's going to be 2 or 3 times more expensive than it.
I know this is a very blurry image, but the very top line here is the FX 8370, and you can see that drawing about 118.
Yeah, it's insane.
And then
pretty impressive.
Nice.
Alrighty, let's move on to our next story. What? It's about Gigabyte. Hey, you know what? They've been our sponsor for the last 3 or 4 shows, and with their BRIX lineup. Very sexy little desktop PC. It's a mini PC. Well, they've got another one that's coming up now, and this one is probably the most appealing to me that I've seen. Out of all the BRIXes, they've been doing Brixies.
The Brie. Out of all the Brie.
They've been doing Brie. The Brie, there's been a line of Brie for like the last 3-4 years now. I remember when we were still at Newegg, and they were like, hey, look at this little mini PC. We're calling it BRIX. Because there's a guy at our company, his last name's BRIX. And so I was like, yeah, cool.
Except he works at Corsair.
And now he works at Corsair. Traitor! Damn it, call!
No, they're friends.
Yeah, they're cool.
They don't make competing products.
No hard feelings. Damn it! Traitor!
What's inside this
The
BRIX?
BRIX is a mini gaming desktop PC that now has a 6700K and your choice of a GTX 1070 or 1080 fully fledged desktop GPU. No mobile shit here.
Well, hey.
Which is way crazier, way more powerful than any other BRIX that I've personally ever seen. In fact,
this image seems to indicate it's an actual full-size gaming card, not something that's like soldered onto a custom-made PCB motherboard or something.
Which means maybe you could even swap it out for something else in the future. It looks like just a specific custom mini case that you can put in here.
That's kind of cool.
Which is pretty sweet. It is, however, the largest BRIX that we will be seeing. It's got a 10-liter capacity.
So if that's that.
Which is...
Yeah, that's...
I mean, it's like the height... I mean, look at that picture. It's like pretty much the height of a graphics card. It's still tiny as hell. And maybe twice as wide.
Maybe a little bit bigger than a game console type thing.
Yeah.
Right? If it's or maybe about the same size? I don't know.
Just take 10 liters of soda and put it into a bucket. And that's about how big that case is.
It's science.
That's what I do. So the other thing, the other stuff that's got in here, the other specs are 16 gigs of DDR4. Those are SO DIMMs. So like laptop memory type of stuff. We've got a 240 gig SSD, a 1 terabyte hard drive that are included. Both of those are included. And you also get an available 2.5-inch drive bay.
That's
if you wanted to slot in like another SSD in there for more fast storage,
expandable storage.
expand your hard drive storage, you can do so, which is really cool. You've also got USB Type-C, supports Thunderbolt 3 or USB 3 Type 3.1. No pricing or availability yet. I bet these are going to be quite a pretty penny because you're cramming a lot of power into a small, custom type of proprietary form factor. But if you need it, if you need a lot of power that's just all contained, ready to go, you don't have to think about building it yourself, it seems like a pretty cool thing.
Gotta make it fit.
Make it fit, as she said. Let's move on to our next story. Yeah, like I said, no pricing or availability. We have no idea. No idea. I bet this is going to be at CES, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
HTC is going to have a new product event. They're going to be announcing shit. Quietly brilliant.
They're going to announce it softly.
Hey, guys, we have this really cool new phone. It's quietly brilliant.
It's got a screen. It's Android.
Everyone give a really quiet round of applause.
There's no micro SD card. Wait, so... Or maybe it's VR.
Or maybe it's VR.
Or VR stuff. Let me do that, too.
Yep.
Wait, so what, why?
So
Why?
Because people want HTC right now. HTC is so hot right now, Paul. Basically because of VR.
Okay.
Their phones, yeah, their phones are still doing pretty good. They're not amazing, but they're good. But the VR is like where it's at. It's trending. There's probably going to be way more VR at CES than we've ever seen this year. And they are probably going to be announcing some new revision to their HTC Vive. I think this is kind of interesting because, I mean, hey, the HTC Vive was the first, apart from the Rift, was the first mainstream high-end VR headset that we had ever seen, with room scale and all that sort of thing. And now we're going to be potentially hearing about a 2.0 version of that headset. Now, don't freak out if you just bought an HTC Vive, because my brother-in-law actually just bought one yesterday. And then...
Yesterday?
Like, he bought one yesterday online.
Did they still have that deal? They were doing like $100 off or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we got $100 off, and I was like, yeah, you should go for it. And then I just see this article. They're like, yeah, we might be announcing the 2.0 version, but...
People in chat are saying that they're going to show the wireless headset.
Yeah, they might show the wireless headset, which, okay, that would be pretty sweet.
That'd be cool.
However, I would imagine that it's probably going to cost a little bit more than what the HTC, the 1.0 version costs now.
You think?
Or... Yeah, I think so. If it's wireless, I have a feeling it might be a little bit more expensive.
No, they're always looking for reasons to charge more money for things.
They are, and that would be a perfectly. I mean,
but they caught a lot of flack for their launch price. I mean, people were expecting it to be less. People were expecting sub 500. I feel like.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. But I remember my brother-in-law's biggest concern was that the hardware specs were going to be much improved, and based on the article, it's kind of saying how most of the changes will be from... Wait, let me rewind here.
Future?
Let me rewind here. Yes, they will be from the future. But, okay, let me rewind. So Steam, or Valve, has basically been encouraging like HTC to use a new integrated circuit with their headset, with the Vive headset, from a company called Triad. And basically this new circuit would essentially reduce the component count.
Isn't that a gang, the Triads?
No, yes, no, maybe.
Okay, sorry, continue.
I mean, it's probably a Chinese company, and I think it's a Chinese gang too. So there's probably some conspiracy going on. There's probably a connection. But anyway, this integrated circuit...
I don't want to get mixed in with the mob, Kyle.
Yeah, it was shit.
I'm not...
I didn't say anything, guys. Triads, I love you. Represent. Big T.
Promised my family I'd leave that life behind.
Yep. It's all behind me now.
I won't go back!
Ah! Jesus Christ! You're so lucky that did not get on the laptop.
I know.
Mother of God!
I immediately regretted it.
You scared the shit out of me. Control yourself.
There's an outburst.
Mother of God. Who at the Triad hired you?
Look.
You're... Someone's gonna gift that right now.
I did my time, right?
Clipping.
Wait,
rest in peace, headphone users.
Oh, I missed it.
This is where Paul pulls out his gat and caps me in the butt. Woo! You wasted beer.
This is a very small
and
amount.
Endangered my laptop.
I have to give you credit.
Sorry,
you held it very tight.
Well, I know my priorities.
It's already been clipped. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, good old Jim, plain old Jim. All right, so this new chip that they're going to be hopefully putting in the 2.0 version of the Vive is going to be reducing the component count by like 2,500 components. Like there's like little tiny little components in the Vive. There's like 2,500 of them that are going to be reduced, completely done away with. And that's like the more components that you have in a product, the more points of failure you have technically, and the more expensive it is. So yeah, maybe they will reduce the cost a bit due to this new integrated circuit here. It's also going to improve the tracking system and improve the accuracy of it, and potentially reduce the mass. So I think that's the main thing that they're talking about here, is it's going to be looking like a smaller HTC Vive, a more compact and more comfortable, more usable headset that's not so big and bulky, which would be nice. But they aren't planning, as far as rumors are concerned, they're not planning on improving the resolution of the lenses, because that would require more horsepower for a PC to drive.
The lenses go in front of the eyes.
They go behind the eyes. No.
What?
Wait, no, they go in front.
I was just clarifying. I mean, you're giving the visual aid, which,
which
is very helpful.
It is. You need this aid because
in case that wasn't enough, I wanted to say it out loud.
We have plenty of visual learners in the audience, Paul.
This is actually
I'm catering to all demographics. Okay, so lenses.
Kyle was there when they were developing the Vive, by the way.
This is what they did in the meetings.
Kyle would just stand there.
I would
like
would do this.
Scientists
would be like
the lab
tracing me,
walk around, okay,
behind me,
take notes.
CEO would be like, that guy,
measurements.
That guy with the eyes. He's got it. He's got it. So basically, you don't have to worry about the resolution increasing on the lenses so much, because that's going to require a lot more horsepower to drive if you bump up the resolution, and it's going to isolate some of the user base. I think that's another concern with Vive, is they're trying to target, people who are playing consoles. They're buying consoles for $300-400. They don't want to have to spend $800 on a VR headset and then have to pay like $1,000 for a gaming PC. Well, if they up the resolution on their lenses, it's going to maybe be like a $1,500 gaming PC that people are going to have to buy, which is an even higher barrier to entry for their target user base. So what this is basically saying is, if you already have an HTC Vive, don't worry too much. There's probably going to be some nice improvements that are going to make it sexier, I would say is a good word to say. It's going to be a sexier unit, but it won't necessarily be a more...
just in general, that's a good
potent, word. A more like powerful unit.
Sexier.
Yeah, sexier.
There's nothing negative about that word.
There isn't. Sexy can never be bad.
That should be, actually...
Unless it's like your mom.
I'll make a proposal here. I'm gonna say this is happening, but I'll just make a proposal here. The word for 2017 should be sexier.
Sexier.
It's just a suggestion.
Let's make everything sexier.
Everything should be sexier.
Sexier. What's your New Year's resolution? To be sexier. PCs will get sexier.
See? Yeah.
Everything will.
Yep.
You should have a bumper sticker on your car that just says sexier. Or you should get one of those custom license plates that says sexier.
Sexier.
You should change your channel name.
Sexier.
and your first name. Just change your name to Sexier Heimlich. I mean,
I like that. My name is Sexier.
I mean, who would ever forget that name? No one would ever forget Sexier Heimlich.
And even if you even if you were just kind of mediocre looking,
you'd instantly,
people would be like, oh well, he's sexier.
It's psychological.
It's obviously.
Why would he be named that if he wasn't?
The word association would go in there. All right.
Oh, the mind games.
That was good. Good. We're off to a good start.
Ooh, all right. So, hopefully, HTC will have some good stuff on in a couple weeks here. Looking forward to their next Vive. I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Fun times.
I wish I had more time to use the first Vive, the original Vive I have.
I plugged it in over the weekend, up at with the family, and I was like, I have not used this in like 3 months.
So what do we
And I
do,
feel
Paul? You're like,
terrible.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was like,
it's not working.
I really need to try Super Hot. I've heard that's amazing in VR.
Ooh.
I've from
Yeah, I
lots
forgot that had
of people
VR
who I
support now.
follow who I respect their opinions have said this is like
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. So,
Dude, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Gotta give that a shot.
Sweet.
Anyway,
All right, moving on to our next story here. We've got a company called, I guess this really only applies to you UK folks out there.
but hey, this is good news.
It's good news.
For folks in the UK.
Yes.
This should make up for my attempted English accent that I did in my half of the
Yeah, yeah. To counteract all the offensiveness that
Yeah.
is sexy Heimlich. Sexy Heimlich. There's been a report from overclock3d.net that has notified us of a website called CEX. I just call them sex. Speaking of sex here.
Sex.
Which stands for Complete Entertainment Exchange. They're a secondhand retailer selling Intel and some lesser AMD chips for well below average market price. However, this is a UK website. I believe they only ship to the UK. So bear that in mind. Sorry for anyone else who lives outside of that. I know it's not fair. Paul and I can't take advantage of that. We're in the US, so
sorry, Ireland.
we're in the same boat with a lot of you. But some of these prices are pretty awesome. I just had to point them out for those of you who are living in that area. So the Core i7 6700K, even though it's kind of... Bear in mind, they're like, new Intel and AMD CPUs on the rise. On the Ryzen. So maybe think twice before pulling the trigger on one of these, despite their low price. But if you don't really care about having the latest and greatest, you just want a really good CPU, and you're in the UK, 6700K for 205 GBP, baby. Gigabytes, no, Great British Pounds, which equates to about 250 US for a 6700K. That's pretty good.
Not too shabby.
That's pretty good. 6600K, the Core i5, at 150 GBP, or $184 US.
Cool.
And then this is interesting. The Core i5 2500K, the Sandy Bridge chip, quad core, for 62 GBP or $76. I think that's the best deal here, because that's still a really good chip for gaming.
If you can
If
get
you
a
can
good
overclock in it,
if you can get a good motherboard for it.
yeah, that would be the thing.
That's actually like CPUs. In my experience, failure rate is very low for CPUs. Motherboards,
It's the MOBO.
there's lots more working parts and functions and stuff on a motherboard, and they get manhandled more and they're flexible and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like when you're looking at stuff that's maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old but still somewhat viable, finding that good solid working motherboard for it can be the biggest challenge. Kyle is about to show off. Good Lord, you really need to clear out your closet.
No, I don't. My
You have
closet's
way
fine.
too much.
So if you guys, I just boxed this up today, but if you guys
Today?
need, yeah,
Oh.
it was just lying around. I was like, I'm gonna put it in its box. I have a P8 Z68V Pro motherboard. This is my first ever motherboard. For my first ever PC
yeah.
that I ever built. And it's only been used for like a year because I upgraded it after that, maybe a year and a half. But it's still a really nice working motherboard, Z68 platform. So if you were to get
Still
a
an
20
anti-static bag
no
package,
not at all.
Oh no.
Does not contain all original packaging, but it's still a very nice board. It's still very functional. Never had any issues with it. It's Asus. And looking back on this board to see how far we've come, there's still a lot of functionality on this board that we have today. Like, Asus is quite the pioneer.
This is back when they first started doing the squishy backing on the IO shields.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of good.
But you know what? There's 6 fan headers on here.
Nice.
Not even like Z170 flagship boards have 6 fan headers. Granted, they're not all PWM, but still, 6 of them. And you get surface-mounted power and reset. There's a clear CMOS jumper. This is not a sponsored ad, by the way. I just thought it would be...
Surface-mounted power and reset, I feel like, is being left off of stuff more and more frequently.
I hate it, as a reviewer.
It annoys me.
Yeah.
It does annoy me.
As
Because
a
they can
reviewer.
put... There's like the big buttons that they put on there for power and reset. Those cost a little bit more. There's the tiny little ones. It's just a little button. It's not that expensive.
Yeah.
But there's high-end
not at all.
boards that have left that off. It's not cool.
Right.
I should have talked about that when we were airing grievances on my half of the show.
That's
Anyway.
a good point. It even has Memo K.
Memo K.
Memo K is awesome. Okay. So just some really quick considerations if you're going to be buying from a
Wait, so are
secondhand
you
store.
offering that up for sale? Or are you just bragging that you have it?
No, I was going to say, like, if someone were like a fan were to be like, hey, I really need a Z68 board, I would be willing to sell it. Depending on where you live. I'm not going to sell it to you if you like live in New Zealand. But if you're in, like, national, if you live in the U.S.
None of your fucking Kiwis.
None of your fucking Kiwis.
Bastards. with your hobbits and your... Okay, sorry. I don't know why.
Or if you're just Japanese, because I hate Japanese people.
What's with the hate for New Zealand?
I know! What?
All right.
Why are we so hateful this episode?
I don't know. We're getting it all out. We're getting it all out for 2016 so we can start the next year fresh.
I know why I'm hateful, because everyone still thinks I'm fucking Swedish! I'm not Swedish!
How do you deny your heritage?
No, they're not! That's why I want to open up my Ancestry box.
Oh, yeah.
On stream, we need to do it. I can prove to all of you that I'm actually Asian. Fuck, I don't even know what I am. So many questions. Anyway, buy at your own risk. Get the secondhand store. I'm not going to get into it. Let's move on to our next story, which is about the U.S. wanting to suck all of your social media information out.
Suckle at the...
They want to suckle at the...
Social media teat?
Social teat. Yes, exactly. Specifically the ESTA, or the Electric System for Travel Authorization. Paul, you and I don't have to deal with this as much. This is more so for people outside of the U.S., foreigners who are visiting us. The ESTA is an organization within the U.S. Department of Homeland Security that offers foreign citizens, any of you guys who might be in the UK or outside of where we live, who are also part of the 38 countries on the U.S. visa waiver program. This company, the ESTA, offers you guys pre-travel clearance for traveling into the U.S. without a visa. It's kind of like a mini visa that's a lot cheaper, and the approval turnaround time is a lot quicker. The application process is just easier. You can stay in the U.S. for like 90 days. It's $14. It's awesome. Probably for all you foreigners.
Way better than MasterCard.
Way better than MasterCard. All the things you can't buy in life. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency, they recently approved. They had a request approved on December 19th, which was just a week or two ago, that adds a social media section to the online application process. So anyone who's applying for this mini visa to get into the U.S., they'll now be greeted, or they'll now find a social media section that says, please link your Facebook profile. And there's a drop-down menu where it says Facebook. So you can choose Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
Oh, you want me to show this?
There's a bunch of them. You can if you want. There's a bunch of them.
What is V-Contacte?
That's got to be from a different country.
VK.
Does not sound English at all.
If it's a hip new social media platform, I should sign up for.
Oh, it's like a dating site for Vikings.
Viking Contacte stands for
V-Contacte.
Sexier Vikings.
Sexy Vikings.
Gotta sign up.
Hop on the spike on my hat.
This reminds me of the Black Mirror episode
where they're like all like they each have a social profile
with the grain.
Oh, the grain. Okay,
yeah.
A DVR for your eyes.
The grain, yeah, that is like the implant that they have, and it records everything that's in front of you. Because one of the parts, I mean, they kind of touched on several things in that episode that I thought were pretty cool and scary and interesting and that kind of thing. But one was they're going through security at the airport, and the grain records everything that you see. So the airport security guy's like, can you do me a 4x run through,
right, or
like a 16x run through of like the last 24 hours? Yeah, and it like skips through like everything you've done for the past 24 hours. All right, give me the past week at like 32x or something. Right. And it shows like, and so they like look at everything you've done for like the past period of time. Yeah. Which, I mean, obviously social media right now is more what you choose to post than, just automatically tracking everything you're doing. But
you know what's weird is I also thought of Black Mirror instantly when I read this article, but I was thinking of the other episode where everyone's tapped into this social media app, and they've also got contact lenses where they can see the app through.
The first episode of season 3?
Yes, where they're rating each other.
Yes.
And based on your rating...
That's the only episode I've watched of that season so far.
Based on your rating, so it's like everyone's super fake to each other. Like, oh my gosh, your dress looks so amazing. And then, like, the other person will, like, rate them. Like, oh, 5 stars for that person because that was a good interaction. And based on your social ranking, it's like Yelp for people, basically. based on your social ranking, it will like actually grant you access or deny you access to certain areas. So like the chick's trying to like catch a flight to get a wedding, but she's gone through so much shit and she's had so many like bad interactions with people that all like gave her like 1 star and shit. By the time she gets to the airport, the check-in person's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't sell you a ticket because you're like a 1 star or whatever. You're a 1.3. We only accept 3 or over for international travel," or whatever the fuck it is. That's what it reminded me of, and it's crazy because it seems so way out there, like the concepts in that show, but when you actually read articles like this, there's so many overlapping, there's so much similarity at the same time, and you can actually see it happening not too far from here.
Yeah.
So, if you guys haven't seen Black Mirror yet, it's just an amazing show about technology and its dark side, how awesome it can be, but also how just insanely weird and dysfunctional
Technology
it can
and
make
other
things.
things.
Yeah.
I think it's a reference to Shakespeare and hold the mirror, as it were. It's like the mirror of onto humanity, and to look at it and reflect upon ourselves.
Oh, yeah, right.
Black being the dark side of...
Yeah. It just uses technology as like the messenger in a way, or like the conduit, whatever. It's good. It's on Netflix. Watch it.
Yeah,
Check it out.
Netflix got the rights to it, and the 3rd season Netflix funded, and they had more money and stuff for it, I guess.
Just try to get past the first episode of season 1. I promise.
Season 1? If you watch the first episode of season 1...
It's the worst one.
Ooh.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
That one is...
Like, let's just... the producers were like, let's just dive right into it. Let's just get our hands dirty. Let's waste no time.
Macabre.
Yeah,
That is a good descriptor for that.
Macabre.
All right.
Next up, we've got the Cherry MX silent switches, which were previously exclusive to our buddies at Corsair with their strafe line of keyboards. They are now worldwide available, or they will be, once other keyboard manufacturers start using them in their boards. This is cool because up until this point, like I said, you had to have a strafe keyboard if you wanted to take advantage of these pretty much zero noise, it's not zero noise, but very low noise oriented switches. And the silent switches are going to be offered in 2 different colored stems. You're going to get red and black. And the red and black stems, they're pretty much identical. The main difference is the actuation force. So you're going to have 60 newtons on the black and 45 on the red. So the blacks are going to require a little bit more resistance. They're going to have a little bit more resistance to them. Some people really like that. But other than that, there's still going to be 2 millimeters actuation point. And they're going to be linear, so there's not going to be a tactile bump on either of them. Very similar to their regular red and black switch types. And
I want a Fig Newton now.
Ooh. Those are tasty.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty much all I had to say. I was kind of just curious, like, which keyboard, have you had a chance to try out the silent switches? I've had the speed switches, but not the silence.
Yeah, the speeds I've been kind of using because I have that the rapid fire connected to the streaming system.
Same.
The silence I've only tried in passing, like at events when they've had them on display.
When there's like blaring music anyway, and you can't even tell how silent they are.
So I mean, I guess it depends. For, I don't know, people who have roommates or college students maybe living in a dorm or that kind of thing, and you really like mechanical switches, but you know you're actually nice to your roommate and you don't want to keep them up.
Click the shit. No, that's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
that's a good application.
Or an office environment or something like that. I mean, if you really don't like the sound of typing and you've been in close proximity to somebody who uses the clicky clacky ones, like the what were the
blues?
Clickiest ones? Blues or greens?
Cranes.
Yeah, those can drive you insane.
Yes. They can get obnoxious very quickly. I remember everyone loved blues when they first came out, and now everyone loves browns because they're pretty much like blues, but they are not annoyingly loud and clicky. The novelty of the clickiness wore off pretty quickly.
Quickly? No. What's next?
Let's move on to our next segment.
Yay.
This next segment, I don't have a lower thirds for it because it was just very impromptu, but it's just called New Year's Stuff.
New Year's stuff.
So we're going to talk about New Year's stuff, Paul.
Okay.
So there's a video that I've been doing kind of recurringly every year for New Year's called What's Your New Year's Resolution? Basically referring to monitor resolution. Very funny, Kyle. And every year I take a poll to see what resolution people are gaming at on their primary monitor. And it's interesting because for the last 2 years, which are the only 2 years I've done it, we've seen a huge shift. I've seen a huge shift from 1080 to higher resolutions as those become more increasingly popular and more affordable as well. So I'm kind of delivering that link out, that poll again right now for the first time ever this year to see what you guys think. And I'm not going to like compare it to last year's results. I'm going to have a standalone video on that on my own channel. But I thought it would just be fun for the stream to give us a glimpse as to what resolution people are gaming at currently.
Lots more ultra-wide options this year.
Yes, yes. Well, actually, I had those options in there last year. So I'm actually hoping to see that number increase.
I didn't watch your video.
Wow. That's not
2560 by 1600?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Didn't you have a monitor that was that resolution?
Yeah, I do.
Exactly.
It's just, it's not, I mean, the 16 by 10, I don't know. I feel like there's a very small group of 16 by 10 purists who are like, that's the, you know, for
there are
work or something like that.
But I think it's still interesting to see how much fewer there are going to be this year, perhaps,
40 by 20.
than the year before.
You didn't do the 4K version of 21 by 9.
What is that again?
I don't know.
Well, I never had that one in the last one, so I didn't know. Well, I guess that would be other, and I guess I'll have to split other up into maybe some other groups, some other subgroups.
It is... Yeah. It's something by 2160, but it's wider. I forget.
Like in the 5,000s, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Well, shit. I mean, I don't even know. Like, I haven't even seen any.
I've only seen like 1 or 2 monitors, I think, with that resolution.
So I guess that would be the other, and I guess once that resolution becomes a little bit more popular, it'll get its own category. But for now, that's all. That's what I have to work with. So you guys go ahead and vote on that. Paul and I are going to discuss something completely different, and we'll come back to that poll at the end of this segment. So the other thing I want to talk about here is just a discussion, I guess, of the best and worst tech that we've seen here in 2016. And like I mentioned earlier, this isn't necessarily a ranked list because I feel, I think there's just too much controversy. Like, I haven't done enough research. Basically, I haven't done enough research on all of this. I haven't had enough time to do it to actually like make an educated list where I'm like, this is definitely, I will 100% stand behind this number 1 placeholder and this number 2 placeholder. So this is more just a discussion between me and Paul and you guys. Feel free to offer your suggestions in chat. What you thought was the best. Let's start with the best. What was the best tech of 2016? And this doesn't have to be limited to just PC hardware. It could be mobile. It can be toy stuff. Whatever the hell. I've got a couple down listed here. The first one of which is the NES Classic, which I thought I never had a chance to work with personally or play with personally, but the fact that it like broke Amazon for a short period, I think says a lot, and also being able to sell out so quickly and what was like $50 MSRP for 30 games built in, comes with a controller, and had an HDMI output so you can connect it to a modern day TV, was the hot item on everyone's Christmas wish list, I felt, this year. And that was like pretty recent. That was like a month ago. The NES Classic blew up. I would have loved one because I sold my old one years ago and I really regret it now. And a lot of those classic games that I sold along with it are included in that list of 30 titles with the NES Classic. So I thought that was it was a really cool move on Nintendo's part. It was officially Nintendo licensed. It was brought to fruition by Nintendo themselves. But what do you think, Paul? Did you have any, like... I have more, too, but...
Well, I was going to say the NES Classic was one of those ones that I thought was a little, like, overhyped. I mean...
Oh, yeah?
Mainly just because if you especially if you own the old games, like if you own the old games but you don't have the Nintendo to play them with anymore or whatever, just there's a pretty robust collection of emulators available for it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not even wireless controllers, right? Like, you get the nostalgic bit of using the old school Nintendo controller until you realize how horrible the design is on them. And how uncomfortable they are to use for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's just a rectangle with like vaguely rounded edges, like maybe, and it's
just a little brick.
It's not that great.
Yeah.
I'd much rather use a wireless Xbox 360 controller or something like that,
Right.
and sit on the couch and and have a much wider range of games than just the 30.
But
that
don't
come
you think that's
preloaded
like
on it.
part of the nostalgia that kicks in is like just the way the controller feels and
Yes.
having to kind of move it in the same kind of way that you did back in the day where you had to deal with that D-pad and that's all you really had? Isn't that part of the experience as opposed to like I just feel like what if you had a HOTAS joystick and like the whole thing and you're playing like, you know, I don't know, Metroid or something.
Well, there's
on the
only a
original
certain
NES.
number of inputs the old games will even accept.
Of
but
course.
Yes, I agree. There's some nostalgia to it and everything, and I think that's what sold so many units and made it so popular. But I think practically speaking, the nostalgia only goes so far, and
Sure.
I'd rather have the ability again to use a more comfortable controller that's wireless, and have a lot more games that I might potentially be able to play.
I
So
can support that idea.
that's my thought. But the one that I would say stands out most for me, and you do have it on your list, would be the VR launches this year.
Yeah.
Which is something that we've said before. Like, you really need to kind of try the VR out yourself. It's really a difficult thing to get across in like watching YouTube videos of that kind of thing.
Right.
Just what the experience is like. Having again just kind of refreshed it this past weekend with my family. I have like my dad and my sister are very, very sensitive to getting car sick and like motion sickness and that sort of thing, and they both tried it.
No problems.
And had no problems.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it says a lot to how far this technology came just in being able to do that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of future potential for it. I'm not sure how long these current headsets will last, but I think, I mean, honestly, when I bought them, half of it was like, well, I'm going to use these and try them out and, hopefully make some videos with them.
Right.
But I'm also going to have them because these are the first VR devices. And
Yeah.
I see VR having a lot of impact in the future and having a lot of different uses. And, much like old school Nintendo or something like that, and like early video game consoles and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like is just a kind of a technology collector's item kind of thing.
Mhm.
I think these will kind of be hopefully looked back on with some amount of fondness or just seeing like, wow, look how far we've come kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah. No, definitely VR I think was the biggest game changer this year as far as gaming and technology in general. Like, nothing has really seemed quite as innovative as VR this year.
Yeah.
Where it was a complete game changer, literally and metaphorically speaking, where I would show it to some of my friends who were not gamers traditionally or had never been gamers in their lives and could easily be in the Vive headset for like 2 hours plus doing like Job Simulator or something. You know what I mean? Like, not even like an A-list game or anything. It was just kind of interesting to see like how transformative it was.
Yeah.
But the other item that I had on this list, if we wanted to stick true to the PC hardware purism, was the GTX 1070. I felt like that has been my favorite card that's launched this year. Just in terms of price to performance, I think it's been a phenomenal launch. I think NVIDIA's done a good job with the drivers so far, and the 1080 of course beats it outright, but I think as far as like price to performance, the 1070 is such a huge gap over the 1060, and it's not that far behind the 1080 where it doesn't justify the extra $150 to $250 that you might pay for the 1080. And there's just been a lot of good models this year. There's been a lot of good designs with the add-in board partners. There's been a good selection, and I feel like most of the fun that I've had reviewing cards have been 1070s. I just always am surprised by the frame rates that they're able to pull out for
really
the
good
amount
card.
of money. Yeah.
I agree with you, but I also agree with chat. Great card if you can find a good model for less than $400.
Yeah, and they are out there. They are out there.
Finally.
Yes.
Took months for it to happen.
It did.
But, yeah.
I agree.
Actually, I'm kind of curious how NVIDIA's going to handle whatever their next launch happens to be. I mean, I don't know how long that it's going to be until that happens, but
right.
like obviously they went with a different a completely different means of like positioning the cards and everything this time when they launched the 1080 and 1070.
Right.
And they
deceptive.
definitely caught a lot of flack for what they did with the Founders Edition and everything, and saying like, here's this card, $379, and then like you couldn't find anything for less than like 430.
Yeah.
You know, it's just crazy. So
Yep.
yeah, we'll see what they do for the future, but
hopefully they've learned a lesson.
All right.
All right. Let's go on to our worst options here. Our worst tech of the year. Two of the items that I have listed here were mentioned in chat that I saw, so I guess I'm on the right track here. The first one of which that I have here is the MacBook Pro 15-inch version for 2016, which again, a lot of these items I've never worked with personally, but I've just read the reviews and I've seen even like hardcore like Apple fans, Apple users like just list their grievances about these items. This being a major player in that whole thing, because apparently the battery life was just very inconsistent. They did, dozens, like there have been multiple websites who have done dozens of tests, testing out the battery life, and the exact same unit would last 18 hours for one test, and then 4.5 hours for another. For just right after. So it's complete inconsistency. And I guess the standard for laptops is supposed to be a 5% variance between how long the battery lasts. 5%. You dies took an hour to it had like 8 hours of battery life. You recharge it and deplete it again. It should only take 5% of that. It should be within that range. So the fact that it was going from nearly 15 to 20 hours of battery life on one run, you're like, oh great, I can take this to the coffee shop and be there all day. You take it there and it lasts like 4 or 5 hours instead, was the reason why. I forget the name of the website. I didn't write it down in my notes, but there's a website that will give its recommendation or not for all these products. It's a very well-known website. It was the first MacBook Pro in history that they did not give their recommendation to or for, basically based on that reason alone. So that would be the first item on my list. The other one was, you want to mention one of these? You probably have some things to say.
Not really. I mean, yeah, the one I would have picked was Galaxy Note 7, of course. Yeah. Such a debacle with that. I don't know what the upshot is of all that. I mean, Samsung is so huge and I mean, they have such a wide range of products that they make. I think they will be able to come back from it. I hope that they've learned some lessons from it. But then at the same time, like, there were a bunch of people who really liked the Galaxy Note 7. Like,
yeah,
if it didn't catch fire or explode on your face like your CeeLo,
it was a great phone.
CeeLo's was totally fake, by the way.
CeeLo.
You didn't see that?
No.
CeeLo Green did a video where he's like on a it's like a surveillance video camera, and he's in a recording studio, and it like blows up in his face, and he like falls. It's ridiculous. It was actually for like a sketch they're doing or something.
Oh, okay.
But they released it anyway.
Yeah.
Point being, the Note 7. I mean, it became such an instant debacle and brunt of so many jokes and exploding, catching fire phone,
caused problems at the airport.
Yeah, like almost immediately banned across all, according to like FAA regulations, at least in the U.S. and several other countries I visited this year also have the same regulations for it. So yeah, pretty crazy that a company like Samsung could go through that much development and still come out with a product that had such a terrible point of failure across a fairly relatively substantial number of units that were affected too.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
There's bad tech launches, and then there's like ugly tech launches. Yeah. That was a very ugly one. It was a whole other level. So definitely. And then to round things out here, just really quickly, want to touch on some of our favorite games that we've played in 2016.
Oh yeah.
You and I are so incredibly busy with our respective YouTube channels that we don't really have the time or the luxury or privilege to be able to game on all the cool games that launch periodically throughout the year. But there were a couple that came to mind for me. We've definitely had some good times in Overwatch. I think a lot of us have.
Overwatch.
Yeah. That was a really good time.
I like Overwatch.
I think that game is going to be around for a while. I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon.
They can keep adding depth by adding new characters.
New skins and characters,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
And maps, too.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So that's been a huge fun one to play for me personally. And then also Doom. I had a shit ton of fun with Doom. Just the campaign. I honestly haven't even touched the multiplayer, but just playing that was one of the first campaign. That's like the first campaign that I've actually finished on PC in like a year, maybe 2. I can't really think of too many other titles, but I was just hooked on that game from start to finish. It was a really good job by Bethesda and id.
My wife agrees with you.
Yeah, I know. She was playing it too.
Yeah, I've had some fun playing Doom, but I have not found the time to sit and play through the entire campaign. Most of the times when I've been playing it has been for testing purposes and stuff, but it is a really cool and well-designed game. The one I would add to that list would be Civilization 6.
Oh, yeah.
I do feel like there's still more to come with Civ 6. They've already started doing some patches. They just did a patch and finally added an alert option for that's the weird thing about a game like Civ 6. It launches and it's like missing features that the game that Civ 5 had. And you're like, wait, shouldn't I be able to do that? Isn't that a pretty fundamental thing that I get used to with the old game that's not there anymore? And you have to wait for them to bring it in. But
we forgot about the guns.
Even with that, I have still played a pretty decent number of hours with that, and it's been fun so far. And again, a game that you can see there being plenty of depth in the future with patches, and hopefully mainly patches and not so much expansions and paid for DLC.
Yeah, indeed. Just some honorable mentions really quick. H1Z1. I think that was before, that came out before 2016, but that's 2016. This year was the year I got introduced to it, and I think I played that game the most out of all the ones we've discussed so far. And then also Titanfall 2. I have not finished more than a third of the campaign, but so far the campaign's been really, really fun.
Heard many good things about
much
that.
more than I anticipated. The multiplayer is frustrating at first. There is a steep learning curve, but once you can get past it, it's a lot of fun. I think I saw Cell mention something about it. It's a really great game. So, yay, video games. That's why it's the reason for living. That's why I wake up every day.
I want to play video games.
So before we close up with our last segment, let's go ahead and take a look at the poll results.
Yeah. This is ongoing, right? So, guys, if you're watching this, if you're watching the re-upload or watching in the future, I'm going to vote because I'm on 3440 by 1440 right now.
Oh yeah, me too. I forgot, I can vote too.
Why won't it let me vote?
Look at this, 54% at 1080.
I can't vote. It won't let me. It's fascist. There's fascism.
Fascism.
It's racist against ultra wide screen users.
So look at this. Wow.
Can I vote?
This is fascinating.
My vote has been counted. I've already voted. All right, whatever.
Stop trying to multi-vote, you cheater.
So 54% still at 1080.
Yeah.
15% at 1440. 7% at 4K.
Wow, I'm surprised that 4K is third place.
6% still below 1080. Ultra wides representing after that with roughly even split between 2560 by 1080 and 3440 by 1440.
Interesting.
And then our diehard
19 by 10.
19 by 10. No, 16 by 10.
16 by 10.
16 by 10. Fans down here at the bottom. 19 of them on 1920 by 1200.
And others.
6 on 2560 by 1600. I should be able to also vote for 2560 by 1600 because that's still my editing system. Although I am planning on upgrading that screen soon, I think. But I'll probably move that to my secondary screen.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I'll do some further investigation on that. Thank you all for the voting. Yes, absolutely. And then
Pimp My PC.
Pimp My PC. We've only got a couple here. We've got 3 or 4. We're gonna run through them quickly here because we're already over time limit. So first off, we've got Dennis with a Core i7 4790K, 24 gigs of DDR3. Interesting capacity there. And then we've also got, wait, does that say 7 240 gig? Wow, that's 7 SSDs. He has 7 240 gig SSDs in RAID 0 on a RAID card. That's awesome. A 750 gig hard drive, and a GTX 660. running Ubuntu 16.04 version.
Damn.
Look at that. Look at all those. This is unique. And look at the case, too. This looks like a custom build.
It's wood.
It's wood. It's got some like railing on the side for the drive cages. It looks completely DIY'd. Very, very kind of cool and unique setup here. And I'm just kind of like stunned with all those SSDs there. They look like Crucials. Might be Crucials from the stickers. I can't really tell. But
like Crucial or like OCZ vectors, but I'm not
potentially.
sure.
But from what I would tell here, actually your cable management's pretty clean for how many drives you have just situated right there.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I've seen far worse with less drives.
Where is the power supply? There must
Other
be
side?
there must be a separate chamber.
Yeah.
A two-side system like.
Oh no, the power supply's behind the drive cage. See it?
Oh yeah.
It's facing down.
Okay.
Or I guess the cables are coming down from below.
That must stick out further on the other side because it looks like it's.
Oh, maybe.
Looks like this side of the power supply is flush with the motherboard, so it must stick out on the opposite side, or the case is wider over there. There's more space or something.
Air 240.
That's really cool though. I like the scratch build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if we are just going from a straight aesthetic or cosmetic standpoint here, Noctua fans would go great in here, and I don't say that often because there aren't many rigs that do.
Sure.
But hey, it's a wood build. Stick some Noctuas in there. They perform great, and they would actually match with something here.
Very nice, Dennis.
Yeah. Good job.
Thank you for your submission.
Good work. I hope that's really your system. I should probably start verifying that more.
Next is Jeff Ray.
Jeff Ray.
Z170M ASRock motherboard, GTX 1070 G1 gaming from Gigabyte and 8 gigs of RAM, i5 6600K, Hyper 212 Evo, and a P400 case. All right, so this is a very straightforward build. You got a good price to performance ratio here.
Yeah.
You got a bit more budget motherboard, but a GTX 1070 and a 6600K in there. I'd be curious what your overclocking is like with that motherboard. I'm not sure. I haven't done too much overclocking with the ASRock motherboards, but I hope you're getting something decent. 4.4 or 4.5 maybe.
Yeah.
And then the P400 case. Honestly, I mean, aesthetically, what's just standing out is going to be, of course, your power supply cables. You have a shroud for the PSU. We don't know what kind of power supply that is. If it's a decent enough one, then you might consider some extensions. And then the Hyper 212, that looks fine in here. Honestly, you got copper terminations for the heat pipes in there, which actually kind of matches with the motherboard a little bit. Yeah.
I think if you wanted to kind of just make it look a little bit more premium, then maybe slap like a 240 AIO in there instead of the, this is later down the line. Of course, the Hyper 212 you have in there is perfectly fine, functionally. But if you wanted to make it just look a little edgier, maybe a little bit more robust, and the other thing is you would be taking advantage of the features you paid for with the P400 because the thing has excellent radiator support for a case of its price point.
True. So,
and you get a decent 240 AIO pretty cheap these days, and you can buy them used. Those I have no problem buying used AIOs. But that's it. Thanks, Jeff.
Jeff.
It's a nice system. Next up, we've got
Navjack 27, a 5820K system overclocked to a very specific 4.582 gigahertz. 32 gigs of DDR4 2800 and 980 Ti, which is at 1532,000. An MSI X99A SLI motherboard with a Kraken X61, an EVGA 850 power supply, and a Define S case.
Yeah.
And cable management is awful.
It's the worst cable management I've ever seen.
There is room in the Define S to route your cables. There is enough length on the cables for your EVGA power supply to route them properly. You should do that. Beyond that, again, it's a decent power supply. The EVGA 850B2, it's 80 plus bronze.
Sticker though.
The sticker doesn't look that great. The cables themselves don't look that great. Since cable management isn't your forte,
Triggered.
then I don't want to necessarily say, go for extensions or anything like that. But you could flip the power supply. The fan's facing up right now.
Yeah.
It might make a little bit more sense to face it down so you can take advantage of the dust filter on the case. You're missing 3 of your expansion slots down here, which I can appreciate if it means you've been swapping out hardware. I've definitely done that myself, but replacing those would tidy things up a bit. And then, of course, you've got the single knock to a fan at the back there, which, if it is an NFF12, is being underused as a air exhaust, but
yeah,
it's also just sticks out like a sore thumb as far as matching color-wise.
right.
But again, with the NFF12, always the dilemma. It's such a good fan. Blah blah blah.
Doesn't that card look a little weird? Like the wind force. Like if you look at like the shape of the shroud, like below the wind force logo, like doesn't it look weird? It's just me.
I don't think so.
Really?
It looks
I meant-
short for a 980 Ti.
I just feel like this, like the shape of the shroud, kind of below wind force, kind of looks like it's been cut or something. Doesn't look straight like
Like
it
it's
usually
sticking
is.
out a little bit right here or something.
Yeah.
Maybe, but
Does that look
it might just be the
normal?
angle the pictures is taken at or
Maybe,
something.
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Huh.
But yeah, so nav jack, honestly, just route your cables properly. Use
Yeah.
See these grommeted holes right here? they put those
Clearly
there
provided for you.
to put your cables through them and then back out from them. There's one up at the top for your 8-pin. There's one over here for your 24-pin. There's one down here for all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, do all that.
Look, this is a wind force 980 Ti. Look at how straight it is. And look, he's got some weird shroud. Someone in the chat mentioned it too.
I mean, I see what you're saying. I have no. This is the only picture we have, so it's really hard to say what's going on there.
I have no idea.
Interesting.
You just had to be there, I guess.
All right. Well, thanks for your submission,
Thanks,
Navjack.
Nav. And then lastly, we've got Justin.
Justin.
4790K, 16 gigs of RAM, GTX 980, and Evercool cooler.
Evercool.
Puke.
That is a fairly ghetto Evercool cooler.
I think the cooler's not half as bad as the power supply.
Whoa!
The power supply is way more dated.
That was pulled from like a Dell from
Pre-built.
1999 or something like that.
Woo!
That is a
Oh boy!
dangerous power supply.
You got some IDE cables coming out of
it's
there.
with a 980 too.
Yeah.
He might be using the Molex to 6 or 8 pin PCI Express graphics connectors with that.
And there's so much going on wrong with this build. I mean, not to be rude,
Right.
but look at the exhaust fan. It's an intake.
That's an intake. I was about to say the same thing. All right, you've got you've got front fans as intakes, but the back fan also is intake. Definitely want to flip that back fan. This is a fractal. Wait, these are
R5?
fractal fans.
It's like an R5. Yeah, definitely fractal. It's R5, I think. So he must have flipped it.
But these are the nicer.
Voluntarily.
These are the nicer ones. These are Venturi. Are
No.
they?
Venturis aren't white
Okay,
blades.
never mind.
Those are stock, I think.
All right.
He just flipped it for some reason.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just going with the full positive pressure thing.
Stay positive. It's your shirt.
I know.
It's too much.
It's a horrible influence.
People are taking it too literally.
These
All right, so
cables need to go. This power supply and the cooler and the
yeah, honestly,
terrifying.
I would get a new power supply, because like that kind of power supply really scares me, especially for long-term use. And you don't have like a low power system. I mean, it's not like the most power hungry system, but a 4790K and a 980, you know, especially if you're overclocking it all,
Yeah.
it's, you know, you need some clean power for that. Yeah.
Someone said, "Why is there a knot in the CPU cooler cable?"
Right up here, it's cable management. It looks like a rainbow pretzel.
Flames are awaiting.
Yeah, so this rear fan, flip it and rotate it so you can route that cable better. Get a new power supply. Just get one that has all black cables or something like that and rewire everything. take all of these loose cables and pull them back behind the motherboard tray, and you'll be fine.
Rocking the beige optical drive too.
That optical, yeah, the ODDs. There's not much you can do about those. So I mean, you can paint them and stuff, but
the fact that like the rear fan, like he even mounted it so like the cable is like in the front and not the coming out the back.
yeah,
Just little things like that. This needs a little bit of help, quite a bit.
a little bit. Yeah.
But hopefully we've helped you a little.
We have given you some suggestions, so
Yes.
thank you, Justin, for your submission. And we are now to the part at the end of the show
The cool and
where we read. Oh my
Yeah.
God, there are lots of donation comments that we must read through. Let's attempt to do quickly. I
Okay.
will start, and let's go every other one.
Okay.
First off, $1 from Igloo2. Today is Tuesday. Yes, it is. Thank you much for pointing that out and for your donation.
We'd be lost without you. Next, we've got a $1 donation from Levi. Thank you very much, Levi. I'm looking for a very quiet mechanical keyboard. What would you guys recommend? If you need it now, get a Strafe from Corsair because they're the only ones who have the, up until now, have had the silent MX switches,
Yeah.
which we were just talking about. But if you want to wait for more options, those switches just became available worldwide to any vendor, so there's probably going to be some more boards rolling out with those switches.
Or look for regular Cherry MX reds or blue or reds.
Browns.
Reds or browns.
Browns are pretty quiet, too.
They're not too loud.
Yeah.
$20 from Graham A. Easy question this time. Did you guys like Duclaw?
What's that?
I work about 15 minutes from the brewery. Can totally hook you up with some fresh brewskis. The Duclaw is the beers that were sent to us.
Oh,
Recently.
yes. Yes, those
Yes.
were tasty.
Yes, it was delicious.
Yeah, they were. What was it? It was a. No, it wasn't a brown. It was a
I remember.
stout. There was a stout.
Yeah, I remember precisely.
They were good. We drank them all, so they must have not been terrible.
Yeah, they were
From
fantastic.
what I can remember. Thank you very
Yeah.
much, Graham. Very generous of you. Dollar donation from Katsunaka. Katsunaka. Kyle is so Swedish, he drives a Volvo while eating meatballs on his way home from IKEA.
That's really Swedish.
That cuts me deep. You know? It was unnecessary. But thank you for the donation.
And then did he
After this point, I made it known that only donations of $5 or more will be read. Well, I'm glad I read it anyway. I'm really glad that I read your dollar donation critique of me being
It's still
Swedish.
useful.
Still useful. I will still use that to buy more meatballs. $20 from Quentin Mosley. Thank you very much, Quentin.
Thanks, Quentin.
Beer fun, son. Best, guys. Best to you, sir. Will
Wonderful.
be used accordingly.
Absolutely wonderful. $21 from King Cosmo. King Cosmo.
Cosmo.
Working on building my gaming PC, 6700K, dual SLI EVGA 1080 Hydrocopper Asus ROG Maximus 8 formula. Going to do full custom hardline water cooling loop, including CPU, GPUs, and VRM. Still haven't decided on a case. Any suggestion on a water cooling friendly case? Thanks for all your videos. You've inspired my PC builds.
Case Labs.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going really
Case
high
Labs.
end, definitely consider something like Case Labs, although they are quite expensive.
Yeah.
If you want a simple case that will fit your stuff and is good for water cooling, can't go wrong with the Define S from Fractal. Kyle has built in it here before. It's got good stuff for water cooling mounts and that kind of thing. I would also suggest Corsair, who has a wide variety of cases depending on what style that you want. So they have different lines that work better for different things, whether you want like a bunch of tempered glass or whether you want something that's more traditional, which is the standard side panel window.
Fantex.
Fantex also has great options. You've worked with more of their cases than I have. I mean, I've worked with the Enthoo Pro, which is a good standby.
Yeah, Enthoo Pro, Enthoo Lux is good.
Enthoo Lux.
The Enthoo Evolve ATX is fantastic for all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Thank you very much. $5 donations from Undead RX Gaming. Hey guys, love watching the streams. Also, I got some cable mod cables, and there is a piece of heat shrink tubing in the middle with what looks like a capacitor in it. Is that normal, or did I buy from a scam site?
That's normal.
Just install it, plug it up, fire it up.
No, it is normal.
Make sure you overclock it. Wait, heat in the middle of a capacitor?
Yeah.
Heat shrink
In
tubing.
in like the 24 pin. Yeah. The different power.
I'm
different.
thinking of freaking LED strips for some
No,
reason.
yeah. For
Okay, got
different
it.
power supplies are
Yeah.
designed different ways. Sometimes
Makes
they
sense.
have there's the thicker cables and the thinner cables, and
Right.
sometimes they cross. And when they're making custom cables in particular, because the concerns are more for aesthetics, so sometimes they'll combine cables together mid-strand, and
right.
often a capacitor, or it might be a resistor actually that's in there, not a capacitor.
You've had first-hand experience with how tricky those cables can be.
I have, yes. Yes.
It's scary.
But yes, thank you for your donation. $5 from Will Gaines. Still waiting on the baby oil.
Maybe for episode 100. Just you wait and see.
Maybe we'll schedule it for episode 100.
We're going to keep you waiting.
In episode 100, we will announce that it will be handled in episode 1000.
Yeah.
That's my plan.
$5 from Kevin Kirchman. Thank you very much, sir. I'm currently using a no-name Korean 60Hz 1440p monitor for FPS gaming, and I'm looking to upgrade as refresh rate leaves something to be desired. I'm using a GTX 1070. Should I drop to 1080p and go with 144 Hz? Or 1440p with 144 Hz are a bit more expensive? If so, which one would you recommend? Just go with the 1440p. Go with the 1440p.
Yeah, I'd stick with 1440. I prefer the resolution over the refresh rate, honestly.
It's worth it.
And just
it depends for me.
If the 1440p higher refresh rate monitors are out of your price range right now, I would just give it a little bit of time.
Just save it.
Although I feel your pain. If you're playing at 60 Hz, if you find a really good deal on like a high refresh rate 1080, I would say maybe try getting both. Like that's certainly an option. You could keep the 1440 for a higher resolution, monitor to have here with stuff on it, and then you could game on the 1080 one at the same time. That's a nice thing to be able to do as well. Yeah, I hate dropping resolution. You never want to do that if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
$5 donation from Ulysses Hoyle.
Would people still buy a system with a Core i7 3770K paired with two 980 Ti's in a custom loop? You guys are awesome, by the way. I built my current 6950X workstation system by researching you guys and other YouTubers. Well, cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's still a very capable system.
The question would
the price.
People still buy it?
The price is...
Does that mean that you have it and you want to sell it?
That's what it sounds like.
If you just built a 6950X workstation, then maybe yeah, that's your old system. I mean, for the right price, someone will buy it.
Yeah, that's a good point, Paul.
Yeah.
If it is your old system, you need to be selling it as an old system price, for an old system price. You can't be selling it new or whatever. It needs to be like, all right, it's been like used for like 2 years, so, drop the price 30, 40%, whatever it is. And someone will buy it. Because someone who doesn't care about the latest and greatest, they just need something that performs well, is going to see that as a steal. If you can price it correct.
I mean, since it's custom loop and everything too, that also complicates it a little bit. I mean, they're going to have to place a little bit more trust in you personally that the loop was done properly and everything.
True.
But yeah, clean it out, change your fluid, and tighten everything down, and give them a good solid story of the life of the system and what it's been used for and how solid and reliable it's been.
Yeah. And
then you should be just fine.
And just watch your ass on shipping. Like, make sure you pad the shit out of everything.
I would say don't ship it.
Yeah.
Sell it local.
Yeah.
You don't want to ship a water-cooled system
possibly,
like that.
Yeah.
All right.
It's brutal.
$10 donation from Shantanu Joshi. Back-to-back live, baby. PS kind of long. Yeah, I know. Why are there so few intelligent small form factor case designs like the N case and SFF forum stuff? Haven't been PC Masterized too long, so wondering why the community wasn't as enthusiastic about SFF. Like the Node 202 felt like only the mass market only mass market SFF case, and it's definitely not at the premium build quality of other high-end cases. Is the community not enthusiastic, or is it thermal issues? I get comparable temps to my micro ATX in the N case. Marketing or sales issue? I don't know why. No more SFF. Please enlighten me. I don't know.
You can't fit as much power or cooling in a small form factor build.
Yeah.
I think hardcore enthusiasts want a little bit more.
It can also be more difficult to dampen sound. So, you might have fans that are more right next to the exterior of the case that might make more noise or that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like there's been some gains in that really small form factor arena this past year.
There have been a lot of tower style mini ITX small form factor builds, like the N3 Evolve ATX and the Nano S, the NZXT Manta. those are all small form factor systems that are kind of more tower style. Those have taken off in 2016 like crazy. But as far as like the really tiny ones, like the Node 202, the only other big one that I can think of that was really good was the Dr. Sentry, or no, Dr. something, or it was called was it the Sentry? It was like Linus reviewed it, Dimitri reviewed it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right? It looks like one of those sentries from Portal.
Yeah. It was.
But that was a really good one.
Was that a Kickstarter or something like that?
Yes, I believe it was. Guys in chat, let us know. I'm sure you will any second now. But yeah, those aren't they're not quite as popular because even with something like the Node 202, if you're an enthusiast, you want to be able to cram in as much power as you can, usually. And there's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make the smaller the form factor. And I remember when I first built my Node 202 build, I put a 6700K in there and was like, this is going to be awesome. But it could only fit a CPU cooler 47 meters tall. So even though I was using a premium Noctua cooler, one of their little low-profile ones, I was still getting temps in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess that would be a big reason why people would stray away from that.
There are just limits due to physics.
Yes, Dr. Zaber Sentry. That's what it was.
Ah, yes.
Thank you. You're looking
yeah, there's limits due to physics of how much heat can be dissipated in a certain volume of space. And that's what you start to run up against with those really, really small cases. So, yeah, maybe that's also a little bit to do with it. Also, I mean, case manufacturers have to see enough demand for them to put in the time and effort to develop a case and actually manufacture it and create a product that they can sell to people. And small form factor is just I think it's gaining in popularity, but it's still not as popular as accessible as larger size ones. So
right.
You just don't see as much investment
right.
from the manufacturers from that side. Thank you for the question though.
Yep.
$5 from Wishbone.
Xbox Scorpio specs. What are your thoughts? And guessing price, it's going to be 4K, 60 FPS VR support console. I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, I've only read the briefest smatterings of it. I believe it's still going to be AMD powered.
Yeah.
And that's all I really know. I think there might be rumors about Vega or Zen in there or something like that, but again, I'm really not sure. That's completely a shot in the dark guess for me right now, so please don't hold me to that. I think consoles need 4K 60 FPS and VR support in order to remain competitive with PCs.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens as that gets closer to being launched.
Yep.
In the meantime, it was nice to be able to buy an Xbox One for less than $250 this holiday season.
That's pretty sweet.
I got one specifically to play Final Fantasy 15, and also because it's a 4K Blu-ray player.
Yeah. That's not a bad deal.
Yep.
All right. Finally, our last donation here is from Robert Harrison. Thank you very much for the $5. When will 3440 by 1440 with G-Sync be affordable? I don't want to spend $1,000 on a monitor. So, here's what I'll say: is if you want it right now, if you want that spec right now, then look into Korean panels, because there are some ultra-wide Korean panels now that have that.
Not with G-Sync.
Not with Oh, you're right. G-Sync. Fuck.
G-Sync.
Okay. With G-Sync, yeah, you're gonna have to wait maybe like a year.
Okay,
and a half. Year and a half. 2 years.
The answer here is market pressure, and the market pressure needs to come from AMD. And one of the things that AMD will talk about over and over and over again whenever they're comparing themselves to the offerings from NVIDIA is with FreeSync, there's a much wider range of monitors available that have FreeSync support. They come down to a much lower price point, and they do not have the premium price extra cash money that you got to pay for the units with a G-Sync module.
Yeah.
That said, for something like 3440 by 1440, you need more GPU horsepower to push something like that. And AMD's options in that range are like the Fury cards, which kind of made a splash when they launched, but they're already seeming kind of last gen, so they're not quite as popular. Like the 480 is kind of where it's at for the AMD side, but 480 is
push 144 hertz.
It's difficult to play on a 3440 by 1440 monitor. So Vega would be my answer for you. Which,
Yeah.
whenever that might come out from AMD, hopefully will be more of a challenge to NVIDIA in the higher end for graphics cards. And if AMD can say, look, here is our $300, $400-ish graphics card, and it's so very competitive against NVIDIA's offerings in this range, and can easily push a monitor like that, and like, oh look, to get for NVIDIA, you got to spend $1,600, $1,200 on an Predator X34, and $400 on a GTX 1070, and for AMD, we have our $350 card and this like really cool $600, $700, $800 monitor. Like that's gonna be the competition that NVIDIA needs to bring the price down for the G-Sync stuff. So
Yeah.
if you're already
not
invested
gonna
in the NVIDIA ecosystem, it sucks because you really don't have options other than spending the money or waiting for the competitive products to come out from the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to take you a long ass time. Good luck with that,
Hopefully
Robert.
next year sometime.
That's pretty much going to wrap it up for the donations. If there's anything in our inboxes about people buying stuff,
Oh yeah.
we can shout that out really quickly for Johnson's.
I've got 2.
Okay, I've got a few. Let's see. I've got Adam. Thank you very much, Adam, for picking up some glasses there. Johnson to you. Also, John, for picking up a mug
Nice,
and a
John.
shart. Love ya.
A shart?
A shart.
A shart.
Thank you, Ben, for picking up another hoodie. You picked up a hoodie. Thank you, sir. James. For
James
picking
gets
up
a double Johnson.
Double Johnson for picking up a mug.
And you got a mug for me too.
Hey, double mugs.
Mug.
Woo.
Getting them mugs.
Philip S. Not to say your last name. I didn't say your last name.
No, you didn't.
Philip S. Thank you also for picking up a mug.
Also got that mug.
Woo. And Vincent for picking up a CPU cooler shirt. Hopefully you enjoy it. And that's it.
I don't know what that is.
That's a
Okay. And then I have a Johnson for David. David
David.
S. Thank you so much. Picked up a mug as well as a thumb screw navy blue t-shirt.
awesome. So that's going to wrap it up
Made of
for
fashion.
tonight's show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 90.
Thanks everybody.
Woo! We will not be having a show next week because we'll be at CES pretty much, or getting ready to head over there. So just bear that in mind. You will have your Tuesday evening open to do whatever other festivities you may indulge in. There's not going to be a show tonight or after party tonight because I've got a lot of work to do afterwards. I'm sure Paul's got stuff too. But we will be seeing you guys on our respective channels soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do we have a host that we would like,
We do.
or a Twitch partner that we would like to host ourselves?
Twitch.tv/Firecrow if you guys want something to do.
Crotch.
I believe
Firecrow.
Cell has recommended Firecrow.
Okay.
I am pasting this in chat right now, so everyone go over there.
Let me Google it really quick to make sure it's not porn.
And hopefully it's not porn. We're trusting Cell with this one.
You know,
It looks like-
Cell.
It looks like he is
You
playing
know
an
Cell.
actual game called Astroneer right now, which looks fascinating. So tell Firecrow we said hello.
Astro. Raid the
And
shit out of
we're
him.
gonna host him in just a sec.
Yep.
Thanks you guys for watching. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, and if you missed the first half of this show, the link should be down in the video's description.
Indeed. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.